Welcome everybody to Snake Prince Vlogs. I'm your host, Prince Elias. This is Coils, and today in animal / reptile topics, I want to talk about zoos versus, or zookeepers versus pet keepers, because I've had experience in both. I used to work at a zoo. Granted, it was in the photography section, but I got a lot of inside knowledge, seen a lot of things backstage, talked to a lot of different zookeepers. So I have some things I want to talk about. And also, a lot of things have happened in the news recently. One, the Dallas Zoo had a couple of escapes. Now, I do feel like, this is my opinion, that it's probably an inside job. You know, they said that a couple of animals that have been escaping, they found compromise, like cut wires that only a human with some tools can do to the gates or the fences or the cages. It's not something that an animal could bite and create, but they haven't caught the perpetrators. So, you know, that's that. A couple of monkeys and I think a snow leopard escaped, but they found a snow leopard. They finally found the monkeys in an abandoned house. But anyways, and then in Wild, Florida, this just hit, but it happened last year, but the news just broke out to the public that in Wild, Florida, they acquired a white rhino. They were under, well, they claimed that they were under the assumption that the white rhino was at least crate trained, docile, and been in captivity. But now they suspect that it was probably straight from the wild due to its behavior. But long story short, they had murdered the white rhino. They shot it dead like 15 times with different bullets because it escaped its pen that they claimed was FWC approved, but somehow the white rhino escaped, broke through it. So how could they approve that? But either way, I blame the humans. I blame Wild Florida, those people, for why he escaped. And they claimed they had no choice. They couldn't tranquilize it. They had no choice but to kill it. So anyways, the reason why I want to come up with this topic is because lately, especially on the internet, but even back when I was working at the zoo, a couple of years ago doing the photography and stuff, but I just always felt, and not just my local zoo, but other zoos in general, especially on social media, I just felt like zookeepers have this sort of elitisms and think they're holier than thou, think they're the best, and always throwing shade or shots at pet keepers, specifically the reptiles pet keepers. And you know, I'm not talking about those who speak out against the private big cat keeping. I agree with everybody. No big cats should be private kept at all. No bueno. Everybody involved with Tiger King should be shut down. All of them, including the ones that still running like Doc Ansel and stuff. In my opinion, they all should be shut down. And those tigers should be put in sanctuaries or zoos or some that are not private, someone's private collection. But either way, that's another story. I'm talking about specifically zookeepers who feel like they're better than reptile pet keepers, and also fellow reptile pet keepers who always think highly of zookeepers and think that everything that zookeepers say or do, their every word is gold and Bible and the gospel, like there's some pastors. It's very elitism, it's very cult following, it's very hypocrisy, because I've been in both realms. I'm a reptile keeper, but I've also worked at a zoo. I've seen a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And witness a lot of stuff, and I still in contact and communications with other zookeepers from different zoos. I'm not just speaking for my personal city zoo, but there are zoos in other states, other cities. I know people personally. And for example, with the elitism and reptile keeping versus zookeepers, one thing, especially in Florida, that they love throwing in pet keepers faces is that pet keepers are the reason why we have so many invasive species in the Everglades. When in reality, yes, they do play a part. Not saying they don't. But in reality, the government has released a lot of invasive animals into the Everglades, i.e. the fish, and also some plants that are killing other plants. And it's not just the zookeepers. The government has a role in it too. And also, again, like with the Dallas Zoo recently, with the white rhino at Wild Florida, these aren't new instances. These aren't the first times that these happens. This has happened a lot in the past. Even my local zoo had an escape once when I was growing up as a child. Like, over the years, there's always stories about animals escaping these zoos that are government funded, that are AZA or ZAA accredited, that people love, riding them and thinking that they're the best of the best and they have the highest standard of qualities. And it's like, yo, y'all love throwing pet keepers under the bus, saying that, oh, their animals escape, their snakes escape. There's this Operation Cobra with these guys illegal selling snakes and yada, yada, yada. But the people that y'all worship do the exact same thing. Another great example, and this what kills me. Because a lot of pet keepers lately have been doing, and I'm included in this conversation, has been doing live feeding versus frozen thaw feeding debates. And I'm for the frozen thaw feeding debates because I've witnessed, like my girl Coils here, it's gone now, well, it's healed, but she had a scar because before she came to me, before I got her and adopted her, she used to eat live, and she had a scar from when that rat fought back and tried to defend itself. So it happens. I've seen worse situations. I've seen people posting pictures where their pet snake, it was either found dead or had their face half cut off because of rats. I don't want that risk. And people are like, well, we should try to mimic the wild as much as possible. We should try to mimic the wild as much as possible. And my argument with that is there are a lot of things, yes, we can do to mimic the wild, but there are a lot of things that these animals don't have to worry about in captivity. They don't have to worry about birds of prey killing them in captivity. They don't have to worry about a lot of their predators that goes after them, killing them. There are certain parasites and diseases, if you take care of them correctly, they never have to worry about. Now, for those people who don't take care of them correctly or mix different things together and then you get IDB, like diseases and viruses do happen, but it's less likely to happen if you take care of them properly in captivity and keep things sterile and clean and stuff. So there are certain things that pet snakes do not have to worry about that the wild snakes do. And you want to mimic the wild as much as possible, but why would you risk putting your animal in danger dealing with live rats fighting back? Even if you sit there and watch, there are people I know, because they love saying, well, you shouldn't walk away, you should watch and see what happens. A lot of people watched it happen. They throw the prey item in there and boom, the snake tries to grab it, the rat bite back, and then the person has to reach in and grab the rat, but the damage is done. It's already been attacked by the prey trying to protect itself. So even if you sit there and watch, there's still a risk. And I'm not risking my animals getting hurt over something that could be prevented with frozen thaw. But anyways, that's another tangent, but a lot of people throw that in pet keepers' faces, like, oh, if you don't feed live, you're neglecting your animal, you're not treating your animal right, you're not giving it its best life, yada, yada, yada. Well, newsflash, the reptiles at the zoo get frozen thawed. The Komodo dragons, the snakes, the gators, the king cobras, the black mambas, the gaboon vipers, they get frozen thawed prey. Whether it's a rabbit, whether it's a rat, whether it's something totally different, they get pre-killed frozen thawed prey at the zoo. Oh, let me show you something. Pet keepers who higher than thou. Now, I do love PVC enclosures, and I am upgrading all my snakes to PVC, especially my boas. All my boas are getting PVC, but right now only the biggest one, Jimmy, is in one. The little ones, the younger ones, the babies, they're still in tubs. But guess what? My ball pythons in rack systems. I have multiple ones, but guess what? A lot of people hate rack systems. And they don't care if it's for ball pythons. They hate rack systems. Guess what? The zoo. I've been backstage to so many different zoos. Oh my gosh. You don't see the rack system because the zoo is supposed to show you the animal. The animal's on display. The animal's on presentation. So you see the glass enclosures with however they decorate it. It might decorate it with wood, fake wood. It might decorate the outside with like those universal rock displays, you know, and all you see is the glass. But backstage, because guess what, the zoo has a lot more reptiles than what you see on display. You may see one king cobra on display at your zoo, or maybe 2 king cobras on display at your zoo, but your zoo is housing probably 5 or 6 of them, and they're doing breeding programs to ship off to other zoos. And they have multiple versions of different species of reptiles for breeding programs, breeding purposes, to, you know, ship off to other zoos and trade off to other zoos and borrow and switch and all that other stuff. But they also have extras just in case the one you see on display dies and they need to replace it very fast. Oh, this gaboon viper passed away. Well, guess what? We got 2 more in the back. Let's go ahead and put that in there, replace it, so that the audience don't know about it. And guess what's back there? Guess what they stay in? Yes, they do have PVCs. They do have PVCs. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. But guess what they also have? Oh my gosh. They have snake racks. Guess what? They're not all ball pythons that's in those snake racks. But y'all worship these zoos. Y'all worship these ZAAs and AZA accredited and government funded zoos. Y'all got y'all memberships and y'all take y'all families and yada, yada, yada. And I love it. Hey, I got a membership to my zoo. I do a lot of my wildlife photographies at different zoos. I love the good zoos that actually treat and care for their animals right and yada, yada, yada. But y'all give so much flack, so much hate, so much cancellations and call outs on social media to pet keepers and snake breeders, people who breed snakes, and they have to have enough inventory and space in their facilities for their snakes. But you worship the zoos and they do the exact same things. The zoos breed. They ship off. Some of them still get animals straight from the wild. But I digress. Anyways, I just hate the hypocrisy of it all. I hate the zookeepers who act all elitist and think, oh, you snake breeders, you animal keepers, you pet tubers and yada, yada, yada. Y'all are the devil. Y'all shouldn't have snake rats and yada, yada, yada. And all you pet keepers who dish your own people for feeding frozen thawed and not feeding live, not mimicking the wild. But the zoos do the same thing. They have the same practices. They have the same thing. You just don't see it, but it happens backstage. Y'all be surprised how many snakes live in snake rats that are not ball pythons at a zoo. And I'm not talking about private zoos. I'm not talking about those little drive-through safaris. I'm talking about the big ones. The big city zoos that everybody worship. The zookeepers that everybody worship. Snake racks exist. Frozen thawed feedings exist. Just stop with the hypocrisy. That's all I ask. If we're going to call out everybody, if we're going to diss everybody, if we're going to say everybody is doing things wrong, we got to be consistent and not just give the pros a pass, the people who went to college for zoology a pass. And don't let me get started on the vets. How many vets have fucked up reptiles for just guessing a diagnosis or trying to treat something that they've never had to deal with? But no, your snake is sick. Take it to the vet. Take it to the vet. Take it to the vet. You take it to the vet. They give it a medication that the reptile shouldn't have. And the reptile's dead. I just hate the hypocrisy. Just because someone is accredited, just because someone has a degree, just doesn't mean that they are better than the average Joe. Because I promise you, there are a lot of reptile breeders or reptile owners who know a lot more than these vets and these zookeepers. I travel a lot. And when I travel, I like going to zoos. And I like going to anywhere like animal sanctuaries and shelters and rescues to see, see animals. I like animal adventures wherever I travel, whether it's a different country or in my own country. And there have been so many times where I go to a zoo and I see a zookeeper outside the cage or whatever, the facility, doing a live presentation, answering questions to guests, giving fun facts. And there's been so many times where I'm in the reptile house and they give the public wrong, bullshit, made up information that we all as reptile keepers know is facts, but they're spewing out the same bullshit you'll find on a Facebook post of an animal sizing you up and some shit. I've witnessed that at a zoo. An AZA credited, government funded, paid for, all that jazz zoo. I'm just tired of the hypocrisy. That's all. That's my rant. That's my video. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, let's have open dialogue in the comments. I'm open to everybody. There are going to be some people who think that I'm just full of shit. That is fine. But I know what I've experienced. I know what I witnessed. I know what I've seen with my own eyes. I have pictures in my phone of zookeepers throwing frozen thawed rats and rabbits in these enclosures, and the animals eat them. But pet keepers who feed frozen thawed are bad for some reason because they're not mimicking the wild. It's whatever. I'm just tired of hypocrisy. I just wish we could just live and let live and not make pet keepers the scapegoats for everything. Because when it comes to these invasive species, not just in Florida, but any state, there have been a lot of invasive species introduced by the government. A lot. The manatees in Florida are pretty much dying because of the things that the Florida government keep putting in these waters. So many plants, so many. And invasive species with the reptiles, whether it's Florida or otherwise, is nothing compared to the damage that people who let their loose cats, stray cats, wild cats, free roaming cats, because y'all think cats are just like tigers and lions that need to be out in the wild and be in trees. How much damage, how many birds have they fucked up and killed? How many plants have been destroyed? How many lizards have disappeared because of free roaming cats? I'm just tired of hypocrisy. But that's it. Let's talk in the comments. Whether you like this video, whether you don't, whether you agree with me or not, let's have a conversation. I just want us to be equal across the board. If we're going to call out pet tubers, let's call out zoos as well, because they do the exact same thing. But that's it. I'm your host, Prince Elias. This has been Snake Prince Vlogs. This is Coils, and we are out. Peace.